Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining our webinar today. I know how busy your schedules are, and we thank you so much for making the time today. And hopefully nobody had to deal with any frost delays this morning, because I know how frustrating those can be. My name is Dean Mans. I am the Canadian Customer Success Manager. In this role, my job is to ensure client success and to be their hands-on support throughout the season. I joined the PGA of Canada in 2003, and my situation is pretty unique. Before joining Tag Marshall in February of this year, I was actually a client of Tag Marshall in 2023. We are thrilled to have 3 guests today on our webinar. I would like to introduce you to Tom Duell from Morgan Creek Golf Club, who joined Tag Marshall this year, Jamie Steedman from the Ladies Golf Club of Toronto, who joined Tag Marshall in 2023, and Louis Alexander Petrie from Pine Grove Country Club, who joined Tag Marshall in 2019.
Dean, you need to be specific what you mean by join Tag Marshall, because you have really joined Tag Marshall.
Yes, I have, no question, Bodo. So when I started this role in February, I am now the Customer Success Manager, working with about 85 clients in Canada now, and it's just been an amazing time.
And yeah, Dean, we're also obviously grateful for the support of some of the sections. I know that you are very involved and know the guys. Do you want to give them a quick shout out?
Yeah, I just want to do a few quick shout outs to the PGA of Ontario, the PGA of British Columbia, PGA of Alberta, and as well the BPG buying group.
Okay. Yeah, wonderful. As Dean said, thanks very much to everyone for making the time. Our webinar's title is How Morgan Creek Ladies Golf Club of Toronto and Pine Grove use on-course optimization technology to empower management and enhance the play experience. Let me do a quick introductory round with our guests today. Let's start with Jamie, because we are gents, and you are right here on the famous map. Jamie, give us a quick 2 minutes on the Ladies Club, and also how you got to be in the position that you're in your journey in golf.
Yeah, thanks so much, Bodo. It's a real pleasure to be on this call this morning. So Ladies Golf Club of Toronto, we were established 100 years ago. We're in our 100th season. We were established in 1924 by Ada McKenzie, and at the time, and we remain the only golf course that was created for the enjoyment primarily of women. And 100 years later, we have 700 strong in our golfing community. We have 150 men and 550 women who enjoy the beautiful facility that we have. Now, in our 100th season, we're also undergoing 2 major capital renovations. We've got a massive $13 million clubhouse redesign or renovation and augmentation, as well as a bunker project. So using the system this year has been really key. It's a very walking friendly golf course. So we have a very small cart fleet, again, lending itself to making sure that the flow of play out on the golf course is managed and managed well. The club itself, as I say, is primarily made up of women golfers. And, you know, as we'll start to dig under the surface of what we found, you know, we're really pleased to see the results and have the data using Tag Marshall. Now, my journey in getting to Ladies Golf Club, this is my 9th season at the club. Spent 5 seasons as the head teaching professional and four seasons now as the head professional. Was again, not dissimilar from Dean, a sort of a long and winding road. My degree is in political science and history. Started my experience within the golf industry at Golf Ontario as a tournament intern. Spent 6 seasons at Hamilton Golf and Country Club, wonderful host of several Canadian Opens, and that sort of meandered my way to Ladies. So, as I say, enjoying my 9th season at the club, lots of moving parts, and really happy to be part of this opportunity today.
Nice. Thank you so much for the wonderful intro. You really could have timed this better. You could have had your 10th season in your 100th year, right? But
Exactly.
yeah, amazing. I think let's move over to the right on our list here, and that's Pine Grove. Louis Alexandre, why don't you do us a favor of a quick intro to the club and also yourself?
Yeah, sure. So welcome everyone. My name is Louis Alexandre Pitt. I'm from Pine Grove here in just south shore of Montreal. Our club is a private club, 18 holes. We've got about 500 members or bags at the peak of the season. We were designed by Howard Watson, and the course goes across a river many times, and it's a really challenging course. That's why pace of play is really important, and we'll talk about it a bit later. I come from another club prior to that. I've been here 4 years, and prior to that, I was 6 years at La Tempête, a golf club in Quebec City, corporate club. So being at Pine Grove is a different venue, is private and taking care of family members, which is really fun. So my role is head pro and director of golf. So I touch everything that's golf and golf academy and event, which is really fun. And the summer goes by very fast. We have a major clubhouse renovation that's coming, and we're in our second year of we have a big master plan for the course. So every year we have work on the course. We have Top Tracer now, Top Tracer technology on the range since last year, and we dig some lakes on the course as well, just to change the view and have more water for the future years. So it's busy and it's fun. And thank you guys for being here.
That's great, and thanks for the intro. And that's a very sneaky way to up your golf ball sales at the club. Okay, last but not least, Morgan Creek, in the far west, British Columbia. Tom, please do us the honors.
Yeah, thank you, Bodo, and thanks for the invite to this. This is great. So Morgan Creek Golf Course, we're going to be going into our only our 30th year next year, so we're still a young course compared to others. It's a semi-private but primarily public golf course. What I mean by that is we only have 70 members, and they're grandfathered in. We don't sell memberships anymore. We do a lot of corporate business. We have what we call a players club, which is 1,500 members strong, and they are a pay-as-you-go customer base. Very busy facility. We are open year round. We did 54,000 rounds last year. Expect to do maybe a little under that this year. Been a challenging year with weather in the winter and the spring this year, but we got through it. Typically a very well-conditioned golf course, Thomas McBroom design. And we just hosted the PGA BC Championship last month, and 120 PGA BC members played it and just were blown away by the quality of the golf course and our staff. So really proud to host that. My journey, I started back in the mid-90s. Did my work practicum at Capilano Golf Club. I was working a lot of food and beverage back then. Decided that wasn't my route, and went into the golf operations side of things. Worked for the Chateau Whistler Golf Course. Back then it was called Canadian Pacific Hotels. Now it's Fairmont. Worked there for 3 years in my early 20s, and then moved to Salmon Arm Golf Club, which is just off of Highway 1, pretty much right in the middle of Vancouver and Calgary. And then I've been here at Morgan Creek for 18 seasons, the first 15 years as the golf operations manager. And then when our director of golf retired, they handed the reins to me. So I've been the director of golf here now for just over three years, four seasons now. So, and we've been with Tag Marshall for 1 year. We also have GPS on our carts, so I'm sure that might come up a little bit later, but we're not afraid of technology. We've got a very robust academy. We just built a second academy building, so we've got 4 indoor studios, a putting studio, and a fitness center as well. And there's a lot of technology in there, so we're not afraid of it, and we embrace it. So
amazing. Thank you, everyone. Let's jump in. Also, a quick introduction on myself. Bodo Siebe, Tag Marshall CEO, one of 3 founders of the business. Next year, we're talking about celebrations will be our 10th year. Time flies. And I am German, born and raised. so that's explains part of my accent. We have had a lot of joy really building this business that we set out to speed up the game of golf, and then that evolved into really the hairy, bold ambition to change an industry. Like Tom just said, bring technology into what is actually quite a traditional landscape. And it's been so rewarding. So we are now working with almost 600 golf courses, and adoption has been more and more rapid. Certainly, the COVID digital leap forward that we are doing it now, right? We're on a Zoom webinar, where 5-10 years ago that probably would have happened in person somewhere, and would have been much more difficult to put together. Now we can just dial into technology, and that's really also helped take adoption on course. We're very blessed in working with some of the very best clubs. This year was very exciting for us because we had a few major hosts on the big screen. So our team was very proud by association that they watched the US Open hosted at Pinehurst, the PGA Champs at Valhalla, and also the Ladies Open at St. Andrews, the Old Course, which incidentally was also tracked, that event, with Tag Marshall Tournament Track, which I know PGA of Ontario also is familiar with. For us, it's very exciting to work with the best of the best and learn from them. But the majority of our play, obviously, is just a good course that wants to do things really well in the middle of the market. And they're all looking up, wanting to improve and inspire their golfers, right? So it's an awesome opportunity, and also we get to work with amazing people within our team, but also within our partner base. Let's also ask the people that are on this call, what do you think? If we're talking about the player experience, what are the factors? Because we are ultimately experience creators, right? That's what golf is about. And we want to know what are the most important aspects of a player experience. So I'm going to launch a quick poll, and then I'm going to go back to Jamie and ask her, if you look at this list here on the right, course design, conditioning, clubhouse amenities, you said you're just doing a bigger innovation there, big investment for your club, pace and flow of play, playing partners, accessibility, tee times availability, a big topic with golf being so hot, value. What would you say are the top three? We'll make the rounds quickly, and I'm going to launch my poll. Jamie, take it away.
Ooh, I would say it's very difficult to have to choose the top three among those. I mean, they're all tied for one, I think. But I think accessibility and tee time availability has been such a crucial thing, and that also ties into to the data that we found from Tag Marshall, knowing when our fastest times are and when we can maybe play with our tee time intervals has been really kind of fun to see. And then I would say, pace of play is certainly the one thing that comes across my desk the most frequently. So, making sure they have accessibility to, first of all, getting on the first tee, and then making sure that they get from the first tee to the 18th tee, in a fashion that's not interrupting their lives outside of golf, so that when they, they plan for 4 hours or 4:10, that's when they're coming off the golf course. So I'd say that's a biggie. And then, of course, last but not least, I think number three has got to be our clubhouse and amenities. We've seen, as I mentioned, some investment in both our clubhouse to make sure that is a seamless experience, but also, part of what we're doing is an academy, eventually, hopefully, an academy redesign as part of our course enhancement plan. And I think those amenity pieces, as Tom touched upon, I think are so crucial in making sure that, especially with the influx in folks coming to the game, that we are able to engage them in a variety of different ways. And then as our aging membership, continues to work their way through, that we're keeping people coming to the club as a destination, regardless of, if maybe they're able to play or how many holes they're able to play.
Yeah, very holistic. I really like that. Louis Alexander, what would you say are the top three for yourself, obviously as a player, but also for your members at Pinegrove?
Well, for our members, it's the course for sure. They come here because the quality of the course, quality of the turf is amazing, but the challenge, that's why Pinegrove is known in the region. So they come here to play the challenge of the course, and they bring their guests, and they're familiar for that. After that, I'll say level of service. It's not in your pool there, but they come for the service of the staff at different levels. So it's back shop and on the course as well. We have a good kitchen. It's important for them. And pace of play, I'll say pace of play is really important because you can have the best course, best service, and if it takes 5 hours to play for our members, I'm gonna hear about it. So their day is gonna be kind of messed up a little bit. So it's important for me as a manager, but it's important for our members as well. So yeah, course first, then service and pace of play. All that is tied together.
Got you.
For Pine Grove.
Yeah, ironically, you mentioned if it doesn't work out, you'll hear about it, and that takes you away from service, right? So let's ask Tom, what would you say are the top 3 for you guys?
Yeah, thanks, Bodo. Everything there is important, but for us, it's is course conditioning, pace of play, and I guess course design, which might, well, we'll get into it later, but it plays a little bit into pace of play, or a lot. Those are the top 3 for us. Yeah.
Got you. Okay. Let's see what our guests thought was pertinent. So we have pace of play coming out tops. Nobody likes to wait. Course conditioning always ranks high, and tea time availability. I know they're all feeling it because they tried to book around for Saturday and they couldn't. Yeah, big themes. There's obviously a lot of research that has gone into understanding that for certain, but here's a little snippet from the USGA Golf Innovation Symposium. And this is mass data that was analyzed from a post-round surveying tool that establishes the Net Promoter Score, which is what you see rudely abbreviated here on the right, the NPS. Net Promoter Score, for those of you who are not familiar, is when the airline or the hotel asks you how likely are you to recommend this service or product or establishment, whatever it is, to your friends and family and peers out of 10, where 0 is it's absolutely terrible. 10 is best thing I've ever done, right? So what they're finding is that at a course, what players really want is they want to be made feeling welcome. So that speaks to the service that Louis Alexandre mentioned. There needs to be good flow of play out on the golf course, and they want to meet on-course staff because it's a long time out, right? Even if things go well, 4 hours is a long time. Make sure that you look after me, right? And interestingly enough, the restaurant visits go up if we get that right. And if we don't get it right, it goes down. But more importantly, the Net Promoter Score, which is the post-round sentiments, either shoots sky high or it absolutely crashes, right? So there's the flow here is key, and also meeting on-course staff is an important aspect. And ironically, if you manage the flow, you will have interactions out on the golf course, and you can cover both in a positive manner, right? And we'll talk about that just now, how technology enables that. Feeling welcome. Well, if you're a golf course manager, you're an experience creator, right? That always needs to be very high on the agenda, that we do that well. So just to summarize here quickly, they found that if the flow of play is medium to good, Net Promoter Score is great. If it's bad, it kills everything else that you've tried to do, right? So it's a very polar in terms of the experience that players might have. And yeah, but we need to, how do we know if we're doing it well, other than measuring post-round sentiments and Net Promoter Score like that? We want to measure what actually happens out on the golf course. So at Tag Marshall, we believe what happens on the golf course is the economic engine, that's the economic driver of the golf course. And we want to understand that as best we can with as much data as we can find, so that we can measure it and we can manage it. And obviously that's where technology comes in and makes things easier and more automated. So the types of tech that we have available, these are all data feeders, if you will, right? Because data is what makes this all work for us. So we have walking tags, which you're all familiar with. So that if you have any walkers, they get clipped on. We're going to show that now. We also have a 10-inch, 8-inch screen that gets installed into the carts, and we have a hidden away tracker. What they all do is feed data to the cloud server that then gets served on a live map, which we're going to look at in a bit of detail now. That's intuitive and helps make live management decisions. And then there's the backend data with some of the variables that that the system can aggregate, and we can then analyze to see how we're doing, how we're performing, and what are the variables that are the biggest sort of risks, and what do we need to get right to keep continuously improving, right? So that's what we need to track. Here's one of those tags. So let's jump in. So we have some maps here from the Ladies Club, Pinegrove, and Morgan Creek. Morgan Creek, we simulated a bit of play. You can already see that this is not an easy golf course to manage. Tom, tell us, for a minute, what some of the challenges that you've traditionally had managing the course, and how the system is helping you, and specifically the live map and the view that we now see here as an example.
Thanks, Bodo. So as you can see on the map, we're quite spread out. We are a residential community. There's about 800 homes in the community, and a few hundred of them border every hole, almost every hole. And because it's a residential community, we do cross roads 7 times. So it's a fairly flat golf course, not too hilly. So it is an easy walk. But it's a long walk between holes because of the crosswalks and the spacing that we have due to the residential area. We do have player assistants out on the golf course. They have a tablet and they can see this map, and they can anticipate the needs of and where they need to be when they can be on one side of the golf course and see where they specifically need to be and get there and work on the issue. There's not a lot of, because of the spacing, there's not a lot of line of sight. The trees have all grown in. So years ago, you could sit in the golf shop and see almost half the holes. Now you can't even see, you can barely see number 9 or number 18 due to the tree growth and the development. So Tag Marshall has definitely made it easier to see the entire golf course in one quick glimpse. So very, very helpful.
You also have a T-sheet that integrates and feeds the names, and that's Club Profit for you guys, is it?
Correct. Yeah, and that's really handy because it's giving us information and breaking it down really by, after using it for the last few months, 6-7 months, it's I can type in anybody's name and look at my pace of play. I did it when we did the run through the other day. I had to bring up my name and make sure that my pace was okay. So I can, and it is, I'm never a delayer. So I've been delayed, but I've never been a delayer.
Practice what you preach.
That's right.
That's great. Yeah. So we're going to talk about what this actually shows here in just a minute. I'm going to ask Louis Alexandre because we also got an image of Pinegrove. But one thing for me to throw in is that the more line of sight you have, the better, obviously. So we have also added the ability to track drinks carts and mowers or any sort of machinery, right? And they have their own name in the system, their own icons, and then everyone's on the same page. So here we have a very different course design, much more compact, challenging as we've learned. And this is Pinegrove. So Louis Alexandre, if I can just ask you, because we didn't speak about it now, what does your team see when they look at this in terms of, because you must remember that most of the people on this call have never seen that. The colors, what do they mean? And how does it help your team make decisions and yourself? And also maybe tell us who's dialed into it and how do you manage things in the day-to-day when it comes to having conversations around pace?
All right, so yeah, we got several people that have access to that image right there, that live image of our course. So we got our main starter, who tags the tags with the members and add their names in the system, and it talks with our GG Golf, so all the names get imported in the Tag Marshall, so it's pretty easy to tag each group. Then you have me in my office. There's a screen there, it's always on. And I got we don't have marshals here, but we have, let's say, player assistants. They do different things, but when we see a group is behind, let's say that square is red, that means they're slow and they're affecting people behind. While we're gonna go, me or one of my staff are gonna go immediately tell them, and we show them the image. Hi guys, you guys are 3 or 4 minutes behind, and we can see that the little purple square behind them. That means they've been affected by that group. So they see it and they understand, and they catch up, pace of play, 1 hole or 2 holes after that. And members, they know because we know on the course, so because we don't have marshals, so when they see our staff coming in, they know that they're late, so they're gonna accelerate. Our pace of play, our goal is 4 hours and 20 minutes here at Pine Grove, which is quite long to me, but course is difficult. We have to cross the road 5 times during the round, and I don't know if you see in an image, there's a river there, and the river is quite wide. At a certain point, it's 80 yards wide. So for certain type of golfer, it's hard to carry. So they have to try it at least once. If they don't make it, they go to the drop zone. So this is some pointers that helps us with the pace of play to have Tag Marshall and know if there's a problem on the course. And it helps us as well if a member lost his club or needs something. Well, at least we know where he is live on the course, and we can go assist him right away.
Yeah, that's great. Great to learn a bit more how you dialed into things. I've got some screens here from our other system, which is a sort of more traditional GPS that overlays, that obviously helps automate some of this communication. But let me actually jump in here. So one of the things that we always advocate is to track interactions that you or the team might have out on the golf course, right? And really use a system, click a button and say, hey, we spoke to this group at this point, or you can do it via the screen too, so that we have an audit trail of that. And also we want to understand, have we been successful in catching this group up, right? Louis Alexander, you said you try and get on top of a group once they're 3 minutes out, and some of the audience might say, well, 3 minutes, what's the big deal, right? But let me just go back here. So if we're looking at how this maps out, we can see this particular group number 33, and the story is on hole number 5, and we can see how they've progressed hole by hole. The first hole they were fine, then they started to drop off, and now they're 6 minutes out. So only on the 5th hole they're already 6 minutes out, and that's where the 3 minutes, 6 minutes actually makes a difference, because if that trend doesn't get arrested, by the time they're halfway through the course, this will be 15 minutes, right? And by the time they're on hole 17, it'll be 20 minutes, and that is where the whole day is impacted. So it really makes sense to try and get on top of things early. And before we ask Jamie, I know, Tom, that is something that you guys try and do in terms of your management processes and approach, is just get out early, if I remember that correctly.
Yeah, we with our player assistance team, we make it a goal to make first contact in the first 4 holes. And it's not to talk about pace, it's just simply an introduction. It's a best practice that we put in place a few years ago, so that there's a personal connection between our player assistant and the golfers. So it helps as an icebreaker if you have to deal with a situation later in the round.
100%. Okay, so Jamie, unfortunately, we don't have a simulation of the ladies club, but we can see it here. Tell us a bit about how you run the show there. And also, do you have marshals? Don't you? What is your approach to that?
Absolutely. Thanks, Bodo. As you can see in the top left of the screen there, our course is oriented in a quite narrow sliver from Yonge Street to Bayview Avenue. For those of you who are familiar with the Toronto area, very little north to south property, but certainly a good east to west strip. We also have 2 valleys that the course traverses, with some rivers that add additional challenge, and all of our par 3s essentially cross those. So we have 6 par 3s, 6 par 4s, 6 par 5s. So what that does, and 2 of our par 5s are drivable right before difficult par 3s. So we do have to manage the flow quite carefully especially when we get into really challenging stretches, particularly that back-to-back difficult par 3 with the drivable par 5 right before it. So we do not have a designated player assistant or marshal, but what we do is empower the entire professional team to be responsive and to be proactive and constantly managing that. Not dissimilar from my two colleagues on the call here, that I have access to this, as does our general manager, and that's been a wonderful tool for us to have when we're not necessarily at the club, to be able to gain an appreciation and an understanding of what's happening in real time, so that, if things are busy, we know the busy points throughout the day, that we can just have additional eyes on it. And we can also see through the note system, so we'll go through that process in terms of logging those interactions, and that's been crucial in terms of just communicating with the players on the golf course. So it's kind of how we utilize things throughout the day. And we also take advantage of monitoring our range card as well, which has been a really helpful piece, because our range is actually located at our most easterly point of the golf course. So it also presents a bit of a challenge. So it's good to be able to monitor the position and locations of our team on the golf course as well.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's interesting that all three of you do not have the traditional marshal role deployed, and I think that is exactly what we're trying to promote, because marshals, according to research, as the golfer experience is concerned, the golfers don't perceive them as friendly or adding value to their round. They're always in the wrong place at the wrong time, and it is an impossible role to fulfill, right? It's really a pre-technology solution. But yeah, just looking at Morgan Creek, if you wanted to make sense of this golf course, you probably needed 2 or 3 people out at all times, right? And that's expensive on the staffing, and there's lots of radio chatter, and you still don't quite know what's going on, right? So I can just imagine, if you really wanted results, what level of process and human resources you'd need to throw at that, versus dialing in on technology and just letting the system do the work so that you can be accurate about what you need to do. And the other point to add here is that because marshals are not well received by golfers generally, and it is a very sort of defensive attitude towards, we need to protect our flow, so we will empower somebody to be quite aggressive about it, because the golfers will push back, and especially if you tell them they're slow, they don't want to hear that. So that is where we can really completely level the playing field, and like Louis Alexandre said, just show them the map, right? The system says you're 5 minutes out, you're 3 minutes out, please help us catch up. Very easy to compute. Golfers like to be compliant actually when they understand, but if you tell them they're slow, they'll fight, right? So turning that role into a player assistant role, and then also, like Jamie, like you mentioned, your player assistants do many things at the golf course that add value and service value, rather than just one thing, which is being out there monitoring. And that's really a good resource allocation. And then you can find the right people to do that too, and technology empowers them to do more. Okay, let's jump ahead. We've got another section we want to talk to, and that is data. And that was mentioned quite a few times already. How is data empowered management and provided on-course oversight? Pine Grove looking very sexy here. Really awesome to see. We have the fastest playing club, and this is mostly design based, is the Ladies Club. So here we see a day in September, not long ago. Your goal time is 4:11. And your average round time on that day, 4 hours and 47 seconds. And later in the day, we can see this shows every single round that played on that day and what their pace status was. And later in the day, your team really got active and picking up some of these groups that are slowing down the tail end of the day. Down here is your hole by hole stats, which we'll talk to Tom a bit more, because they've started dialing into that, and you may have too. And here's the pace distribution, like how many of these rounds on that day, and you can also choose a period in that week, in that month, whatever it was, came through on pace or was slow or delayed. So my question to you, Jamie, how do you use this the analytics when it comes to reporting potentially, or also just looking, are we successful in what we're trying to do here?
Yeah, no, I'm happy to speak to that in terms of looking at this day, for example. The overall round time is 4 hours, so it's a pretty good chunk underneath our goal time. However, you can see that the beginning portion of the day, this is something I spoke to earlier. The beginning portion, those jackrabbits kind of skew the numbers because they come in considerably, like 3.5, let's say, or 3:45. And then, as you noted, later in the day, that correlates with our guest play. So guests are restricted to going out until after 2 o'clock. And that's where we really start to see the pace deteriorate when we have a lot of folks on the golf course who aren't maybe familiar or who might be varying skilled and unknown skilled, potentially the hosts that are bringing them as well. So in terms of using that data to help us, we've just been mindful of those peak times and making sure we have maximum coverage. We know that between 12 and 3, now the data just reinforces kind of what we intuitively knew, that between those hours we're already quite busy. In terms of the hole by hole statistics, those have been interesting, and year to year we've played around with our zoning as well, and making sure that the areas are clearly defined, and that some of the holes aren't getting eaten up by where people are leaving their bags and so on. So that's been an interesting one to play with. That's been really helpful for us from a data perspective in organizing shotguns. Mm-hmm. So when we have large shotguns, knowing how quickly, for example, hole 13, I think is our quickest. I think it takes players about 8 minutes to complete that hole on average, and that's been really helpful in making sure that when we're putting double groups out on the golf course, that we're doing that in conjunction with the data and the feedback we're getting from the system. So that's been incredibly helpful. And then, of course, just knowing where our hotspots are, knowing the holes that we need to be more present in on an ongoing basis has been really helpful. And then, as we can see, sort of in that latter portion of the day, with all of those interactions, that gives me, again, if I'm not at the club, it's really helpful before I get an email or a phone call from Mrs. Smith about the pace that afternoon. I can go in and proactively see that the team was responsive and was doing a great job that day, and have a little bit clearer picture, as opposed to just flying blind and going into that conversation and having to speak with each member of the team in advance. So the data has been incredibly helpful, and this dashboard is a pretty cool one to look at.
Nice. So we've got a breakdown of singles, twosomes, threesomes, foursomes. You can really break that down, and obviously, like I said, if you want individual nines, you can see those. If you want date ranges, that's all diggable. Just to stick with you here for one more minute. So one of the items that I mentioned earlier is every single round that gets played has a track map, which is a history of it, right? We have blacked out the player names. We don't want to point fingers, but because you have that integration, that actually shows the player names. So if there's any post-round questions, it's easy to look at the data. Is that something that you use at all? Yeah, when it comes to player management, or also making sure that your team understands where or when they needed to maybe get on top of things a bit quicker?
Yeah, absolutely. So the player management, and that's actually one of the key data pieces that when we got the annual report, where you can actually see, you can see in clear as day exactly who is bubbling to the surface.
I'll jump to that. We have it.
Yeah, the player report is a really interesting one, and the first few. The first page, I'd say, is mostly unknown individuals. So those tend to be our guests, because those guest groups are, do cause some delay from time to time. And I think that also speaks to the pre-communication that we're doing with not only those guest groups, but also the starters are really having a much more in-depth conversation about pace of play as those guest groups are teeing off. But certainly, that's been an interesting one. Knowing that in most cases members are self-selecting their playing partners, it's something that we definitely have that data to back up, maybe to put a couple asterisks mentally, internally with our group to say, okay, we've got a group that we know is known to be a delayer group. So let's just make sure we're doing a better job at keeping our eye on that. But then also being sensitive to the way that we communicate with that group, knowing that they might be seeing us quite often on the golf course. And then of course, if there is someone who's bubbling to the surface on these reports, then it's a conversation that I'm having directly with them and making sure that we're addressing, maybe just gaining a bit of clarity as to why the rounds are slower and coming up with some strategies to help them.
You can there's always coaching that can be done, right? And generally, I think once you have data to back things up, it's not personal, it's not perception, it's just facts. And let's talk about it and let's get better. I know that Louis Alexandre at Pine Grove, you have a pace of play process that works on a strike basis. How do you apply that, and is the data helping you to get that done?
Yeah, so we see the pace of play live, and every time a foursome is behind, we go talk to them and we show them their pace of play, and we do have a booklet where we take a note. We do strikes. They have 3 strikes, and we're really the board of directors of the club really want a pace of play to be good. So after 3 strikes, they get a letter from one of the committees. And if they don't do better, well, they get suspended. They get suspended for a week, and they lose their privileges to play, let's say, between 12 or 1 o'clock. If it's the time they usually play, they're gonna have to play later in the day. So it's really important here, because a pace of play that at 10 o'clock in the morning, that's 4 hours and 20. We know by the end of the day it's going to be 4 hours and 30, 40 or 45. So we cannot let that happen. It might be a bit harsh, but it works. The pace of play in general is really well. We don't suspend people a lot, maybe once a year. So the data helps us, because every time we do have a strike, we write all the data down. And so people want, if they want to see it and they want to complain about it, when we can explain them what happened.
Yeah, got you. Yeah, here's one of your days. That's August 28th, also not too long ago. Quite a busy day out. And your goal time, like you said, it's 4:20. You feel it could be a bit tighter, but that day comes through at 4:11, right? 89% of players on pace. I'm sure that's a good day at the office, and then you can really do what you need to do without having to deal with pace issues post round or any sort of sentiments. It's good to be proactive. Let me jump to Tom here and Morgan Creek, and obviously your course we have seen is quite long and a lot of transition areas. You have set your goal time to be quite tight, and you can see there isn't, like, you really have to stay on top of it and manage things tightly to get to that point, right? So what have you learned from the data? And maybe specifically also, we've highlighted some of the hole by hole round times. How has that all been helpful to you and your management and your setups and your incremental improvement that you want to drive?
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, we've been in operation for almost 30 years now, and to this point, or until the spring, it was mostly subjective information. We did have pace of play posted on our scorecard of 4 hours and 20 minutes and broken down by hole, but that was just our perception of what it should be and what we feel it was. Nobody was out there with a stopwatch. Now we have the stopwatch out there so we can see it. On the bottom left of the screen, you can see the chart hole by hole. And particularly, you can see the red ones, particularly hole number 13 and 17. Dean and I have had a conversation about it. I think I was already on it, and Dean's like, what the heck's going on 13? What kind of hole is that? And it is a longer but slightly reachable par 5 with forced carry directly in front of the green. And 17 is similar. It's a very reachable par 5 with a pond in front of the green. And so we're looking at those holes. We're trying to come up with solutions for next year. We're going to try them out this winter. One of the solutions we're working on is maybe we move the tees back and make it less reachable. So it's less tempting to go for it, and see if that works. You know, we find that hole number 13 in particular, it's taking about 20 minutes to play, which is far too long. And it's not it's a pretty straightforward par 5. It's other than it's reachable and it's got water in front. There's nothing too dramatic about it, or there's no overhanging limbs, or it's not narrow. It's just it's a long but slightly reachable hole. So I think there's a little bit of male ego playing in on that hole. So
I wasn't going to say that.
yeah.
Yeah, so but it's interesting, right? Because we spoke about Louis Alexandre said earlier 3 minutes, right? How those little 3 minutes actually incrementally make such a difference, right? Because if you can shave off 4 minutes of hole 7 and 5 minutes of hole 13, 2 or 3 minutes of your other holes, you have reduced your round time by 15 minutes. That is one tee time, right? Potentially two, but what's important, and that's what Tom is referring to, you need to make a change, run the data. Is it working? Is it not working? Right? And then you look for the next opportunity, make a change. And sometimes it's a tree that needs to be trimmed back. Sometimes one bush that needs removing. And sometimes you need to do things that are counterintuitive. You might need to slow down the hole before hole number 13, right? Make that a bit tougher to play so that you're buying time for the next hole and you don't create a bottleneck. So those things are all possible once you have the data, and then you need to be very intentional about testing things out, and also obviously working with your green staff, you know, around setups and that. Digging into that. Okay, here we've got Morgan Creek track maps. Yeah, is there anything else that any of you would like to add to either the track map or the analytics hub, and how it's helpful before we look into the more seasonal data in our next section? No. Okay.
For Pinegrove, we had an issue last year because every Monday we have like corporate events, a foundation that comes in play here, and there was a card that's been damaged. So we could find with the number of the cart which group it was and where the cart went off road. So that helped us, you know, with the tournament organization to find the person that did it, to the group that did it, and pay for the repairs.
Yeah, that's a good one. Obviously, the systems that are installed with the carts, they have a geofencing opportunity, but it's so good to have the data and especially the names attached. And very often, yeah, that leads to results. We even had a Texas golf course had golf carts stolen, and they moved from Houston to the Dallas area in a day. And the cops managed to track them down because they had the trackers in them. So now we're back at Morgan Creek, and we want to look at the broader optimization opportunity around the data, and we'll look at some of the seasonal data just for a minute. But Tom, you mentioned that the trees have really grown a lot, obviously, as is expected over the 30 years. One of the things that is an ongoing theme with houses on property is the damage. Is that something that you're needing to manage, and is the system at all helpful in that?
Yeah, it's so the hole that's pictured here is hole number 12. We have two, well, there's a lot of homes, but this one in particular, there's a house way over on the right that has been all of a sudden been hit by golf balls, and we've used the GPS system and the Tag Marshal to isolate who's on that hole and who's responsible for doing the damage when there's a broken window. So we can, you know, it's a live shot of who is where, and if a homeowner is at home, they witness the damage, they call us within a couple of minutes, we know who it is, and we do hold the golfers responsible. And so it's we can track that down, and if they dispute it, we can say, listen, here's the map. We got the call at this time. At that time, you were located in this location. There's not a lot of doubt here, and we can and hopefully that Golf Canada, so they have insurance to cover it. But yeah, it has been very helpful for that, for accountability.
Yeah, very good. All right, let's go back to Pine Grove and your seasonal stats. Yeah, like you said earlier, the season is short and you're getting through a lot of golf. So here we've got your 420 goal time, and you brought through your season basically in 416. Yeah, some of the things that are interesting if you're looking at it over time is that how does a day run? And Jamie, you mentioned your your rabbit groups early. It's similar at Pine Grove. The players at 7 a.m. play the course in 3:15. That's probably Louis Alexandre playing, and that's why he thinks the 420 is too lax. And then your next group 7 to 8 is under 4 hours, right?
Yep.
So one of the opportunities here, and yeah, we've painted this in here, is that you can actually stagger your goal times and make things a bit tighter in your management, so that the colors on the map that you're seeing actually works in line with a tighter goal time, especially start of day, right? Is that something that that you'd consider trying out maybe for next season? And yeah, what are your thoughts?
Oh yeah, for sure. Because we know that our groups in the morning like to play fast, so we don't even need to look at them. But it does change the average of pace of play. But for sure, we don't want to increase the pace of play in the afternoon.
Yeah. Oh, you've gone quiet there, Louis Alexandre. I don't know if you're on mute. Wait, can't hear. Okay, maybe you need to try and fix your mic. Just
Better?
test it. Keep. Oh, there we go. I think we
Okay.
got you back.
All right,
There you
sorry
go.
about that. I don't know what happened. So yeah, we have some issues on Wednesdays and Fridays at around 12 o'clock and 1 o'clock, because the guys come from work, have lunch, they're late. They show up tight with a tee on the tee box, and they hit breakfast balls, or they hit mulligans. So we get some a tee time get late by 5 or 6 minutes on Wednesdays and
Yeah.
Fridays because of that. So we need to address that. I don't know how yet, but there's something we need to do. So because when the guy starts 5 minutes late, it affects everything behind.
Absolutely. Yeah, so here's your seasonal data broken down by day, right? And Friday's busy day at Pine Grove, you can see that. And then here's obviously the month and the performance. But yeah, the staggered goal time is a highly successful strategy that we're seeing applied at many courses, where you can really pull your day along if you start it quicker. And then you can also motivate and say the players who like to play in 3:30, we'll make that happen for you. You just need to commit, right? If you want to play Pine Grove in under 4 hours, here are your tee time options, but commit to that, and we'll make sure that you do, so that you're literally pulling your day along. And the impact that has on the average round time is really significant. Yeah, let me jump in with Jamie again, because I think that is something that you're starting to evaluate. And are there maybe opportunities to tighten your intervals where there's parts of the day that are quite speedy, and maybe you can gain some capacity? Jamie, how have you thought about that, and what are the opportunities that you're trying to evaluate?
Yeah, definitely. So in terms of like for us, the way that we've really been able to optimize what we're seeing here on this sheet is kind of a 2-for-1 benefit, because we have a lot of demand for the earliest morning tee times at the club. So in addition to trying to get as many people as we can out during those hours, it's also a time where we see our quickest rounds. So as I mentioned earlier, we've been able to actually reduce, we have 10-minute intervals throughout the day, but because of that speediness, and because we know that the players actually play quite quickly, when there are lottery anomalies, we do a lottery every single day. So when I run those, it can be a significant difference from one day to the next. So I'm able to actually just create a new tee sheet where maybe we do 8 or 9-minute intervals. We're able to squeeze more groups out, and then there's no negative impact to the morning's pace as well. So it's kind of been a 2-for-1 in that respect, and knowing that we have the data to support that certainly makes it an easier sell when I have that discussion about why we chose that course of action with our golf committee or with our various subcommittees that get formed from time to time.
Yeah, that is great to hear, and it's it makes so much sense. Also, if you can start your day quick, it has a big impact on the rest of the day. But also, if players are moving in what might essentially be 45 minutes, 50 minutes faster than your normal time, you can tighten your intervals around that, right? And then it just needs management. What we see a lot is that really works well at a daily fee course that does dynamic pricing, right? Because it's actually a pricing variable, right? I want to play fast golf. I pay more for that, no problem. But then you need to deliver for me, right? And if you have a dynamic pricing window that is highly attractive, if you can find another tee time within that window, that is super attractive dollars to an operator. Let's jump to Morgan Creek. I know, Tom, you have a much more tricky crowd to manage, which is your regulars, and it's lots of guest play, right? So it's both worlds. And you have set yourself to really high standards at 420. Yeah, what are your thoughts now, having gone through one season with the program? What are you looking to test out in your shoulder season now, in your winter months? And what are some of the things that you feel you want to learn more about when it comes to the data?
Yeah, so we've got nothing to hide here. You can see we've got our work cut out for us. So we're not meeting our goal. It was only our first year, and again, 420 is based on our subjective opinion of what pace of play should be. Years ago, it was 425. We got aggressive when we got more, the Players Club, we got more regular play. The time kind of came down a little bit. But right now I'm in the midst of, as I just mentioned earlier, breaking down the hole by hole pace, looking at what it actually is, what the measurable is, and how can we improve that, and coming up with ideas. And we're working, I've had our player assistants and our starters and our golf shop staff who've been here for a while look at that information and try and figure out, okay, how can we as a team, how can we get the pace down? Maybe it's creating a focal area for our player assistants, say, hey, number 13 is a slow area, so we need to focus, you need to spend more time on 12, 13, and 14 to keep the flow going. And as you pointed out, like, there's probably 4 or 5 minutes right there, and if we get 5 minutes, we're getting real close to our goal time. So it's certainly achievable when you have the information and you can break it down. It's not 7 minutes seems like a lot, but and the other thing too is that's our average pace. It's you didn't show the slide earlier where we were 419, or maybe you did. Yeah.
I did. No, I know this is
we do a celebration when we have a busy day and the pace is under. We get the daily report every morning, myself and our head starter. Yeah. And we do a kudos out on our team's message going to the team saying, hey, good job. Like, yeah, we did it, and it's not easy. So no, we got our work cut out, and we've even though we're open year round, we can, it's not as busy, but we can certainly try things and test things out that aren't, and it's less risk for us to do it. So as I said, lengthening some of the holes to make them less reachable might actually help. There's less weight to build the fairway for the green to clear. So.
No, great. You must dial into Dean, and the customer success team will do an end of season report for you that has some more deep dives also into your hole by holes and so on. Really call on them as a resource, because obviously they've seen problems like this solved at many other golf courses, right? So that's always the good thing about sharing and learning from data, that we can really then feed back to others, and where we found things that work at one golf course or at a few others that maybe somewhere else completely, that we can then share in terms of best practices. So here's another data breakdown that's from the Ladies Club, where you can see that only a small fraction of players are actually delayers, right? So in this case, it's 5% delaying 20% of your play. So that shows again why it's so important to get on top of the delayers early and decisively, if you will, right? Because if you don't catch them, then this blows out, and then all of a sudden your entire day is experiencing flow issues. So the effort does always pay off, because the players, that is their happiness barometer, right? And for you to run your business, so much easier to prevent than it is to cure. Let's go to the last section, player member responses to the tech. And I want to just open the floor, whoever wants to jump in first. Yeah, what have your players and members, what is their response? Because sometimes we get asked, hey, players don't want to be tracked, and they say it's Big Brother, that sort of thing. But yeah, do they see the light? Let me make this easier for you. Jamie, what has been the players' response at the Ladies Club, and what have you learned? Has it been a good thing to implement as far as the player is concerned?
I think now that we're approaching the end of our second season with the technology, I think once we got beyond dispelling everyone's fears of the surveillance piece, and we dispelled the notion that we were listening to them through the tags, which was an ongoing rumor for the first part, that there was some sort of audio surveillance. Once we got past that, I think it's certainly had a positive impact. I think when people know that they're being tracked in terms of there is accountability for their pace, and that it's something that we actually do keep an eye on, I think that's had a positive impact. I think now we're starting to see the other piece to it, which is our accountability piece, which is making sure that they say, well, we're carrying around these trackers, what good is it if I'm still experiencing a delay out on the golf course? And so that's that's also holding me and our team accountable to making sure that we're doing a constant check, and then ultimately it's all of us as management holding the club accountable in terms of making sure that we're properly accounting budget and resources, to, if this is a top priority, then we need to have the appropriate resources, and here's the and here's the impact and the effect. So I think all around it's been a positive impact, and certainly we've really enjoyed having the technology. We've seen a huge benefit at our club, and if nothing else, it gives me an opportunity to tell our members and our golf committee that here's our pace. It's 3 hours 59 minutes. Our expectation is 4:11. Here, these are the facts, and this is the data. So it's been really helpful for me to have those conversations.
Oh, great. Again, I like your holistic approach here, and it does help. Like, if you can communicate, you have the data, you can create a culture around it that's positive, right? Louis, Alexander, what would be your members and players' sentiment? Success? Is it working as far as they're concerned?
Well, I mean, we had it for many years now, so they used it to hear the word tag marshal and all that. But when we have a bad day or a bad couple of days with pace of play, they just question, what's the use of this? How much we're paying for this? But it's it's gonna happen. There's several factors, but day in, day out, it's great data for us, and it helps. And we remove the marshals that the members don't like. They don't like having a marshal on the course. They don't like him. They don't like the feel of it. They want to be alone on the course. So it answers their demand as well.
Okay. Tom, from your side?
Yeah, I'll share positive and negative. Positive, our members, and Dean and I talked about this when we did a review midsummer. Once we had clarification about where the trigger point is on 18, we now have members, when they get to 18, I told them it's right by a tree, so they make sure they get their push carts and power carts by that tree so they can help their pace of play. So it shows that they're aware, and awareness is the big part of pace of play. Is time is perception, and people have no idea how long they've been out there. I've played in 4 hours and 50 minutes, and it's been a long day. I played in 4 hours and 15 minutes, and because I played poorly, it was a long day. So the negative, we did have some online reviews about that we are tracking people, that we put these tags on people to track them so we know where they are, and it's a real it's kind of invading their personal space, if you will. My response to that is, we have GPS on the carts that tracks you. You have a cell phone, you're being tracked. And if you have GPS in your car, you're being tracked. So it's just the world we live in. And if you don't think anybody's following you, then
Yeah, that is the one review, right? But if you have 100 reviews that say loved my time at Morgan Creek, then yeah, that's what matters. One last opportunity to consider is you can obviously put the map on a TV in the clubhouse and make sure that it gets much more visibility by players. That normally helps with again, you said pace is perception, time is perception. So now we really have a clear idea. And nobody wants to be that pink or purple group approaching the clubhouse, right? So it helps with the self-management and accountability. I know that we've gone a little bit over time, but it was a jam-packed session, and I really want to thank you guys for your insights. Here's our team that will look after you, answer any questions that you might have. Anyone wants to reach out. Dean, I'll give you an opportunity to close our session. What stood out for you? Is there anything that we missed that we should have mentioned?
No, thanks, Bodo. I think that was great. Thank you so much, Jamie, Louis, Alexander, and Tom. Just an excellent job from you all today. Thank you so much for sharing your success stories with Tag Marshall, and I appreciate all your time today and everybody online that joined our webinar. So thank you so much.
Fantastic. Okay, everyone, thank you, and all the best for the last few weeks of your season. I hope you get some extra time. And if not, you can all come over to Morgan Creek and play a few winter rounds. And we hope to see you at the PGA Show of Alberta, one of the other events that we're going to be at. Thank you so much, everyone, for your time. Really appreciate it, and we'll see you soon.